January 17th, 1940. A pale winter sun presses weakly against the frozen sky over the Rhineland. Frost covers the steel rails of a small German supply depot, and the winds carry the brittle scent of coal smoke and wet wool. A platoon of young German soldiers moves slowly along the clearing, their boots cutting into the icy mud. Tin mess kits clatter at their belts, mostly empty, holding nothing more than thin slices of rye bread, a shred of sausage, and a few grains of ersatz coffee that smells faintly of burned barley. The war is still new for them. Their country marches with confidence, believing scarcity will sharpen discipline and hardship will carve ordinary men into conquerors. They have been told again and again that the enemy, whoever he eventually turns out to be, will be soft, spoiled by comfort, careless under pressure. The world, they are told, is theirs to outlast. They walk through the cold morning with this certainty inside them like a quiet flame. Yet across the Atlantic Ocean, laboratories in New Jersey, factories in Chicago, and rail yards in Pennsylvania are already awakening with thunderous purpose. America is not yet at war, but its gears are beginning to turn. Soldiers in training camps from Texas to California rise before dawn to the smell of real coffee dripping into metal urns, scrambled eggs steaming on long wooden tables, and cartons of cigarettes placed casually within reach. These early rituals form the quiet backbone of a belief. A well-fed soldier fights with a clear mind. The German soldier still believes that endurance is built through deprivation. The American soldier believes endurance is built through strength. Months later, after Europe collapses into full fire and North Africa becomes the next battleground, those two beliefs will collide in a way no strategist predicted. And for the German soldiers who eventually meet their American counterparts face to face, it will be the small, ordinary things, coffee, eggs, cigarettes, that shock them more than any tank or rifle. The desert of Tunisia becomes the great teacher. Wind scours the dunes. Heat radiates off metal until vehicles burn to the touch. And yet, in this blistering wasteland, the German Afrika Korps fights with practiced efficiency, convinced of its own superior training and toughness. Many of their soldiers live on rations so thin they are stretched to the point of weakness. Bread that hardens into stone by midday. Canned meat rationed to the gram. Ersatz coffee that brings no comfort. By the winter of 1943, German intelligence reports note abrupt changes. The Americans have arrived in full strength. Their uniforms are newer, their faces younger, their weapons plentiful, and most astonishing to the Germans, these men carry luxuries into combat as though the war cannot strip them of anything. At Kasserine, German troops capture the first American supply dumps. Inside wooden crates stenciled, U.S. Army, they find mountains of goods that seem more suited to a civilian market than a battlefield. Powdered eggs, chocolate bars, tins of real coffee, sugar packets, salt tablets, fruit, and rows upon rows of cigarettes. One German quartermaster writes in a stunned report that the Americans appear to be an army of wealthy men. Another officer records with disbelief, "They fight on full stomachs. Their rations are so rich that even their prisoners are well fed. But the most enduring symbol is the small, dented American mess cup. Its blackened sides show where it has been held over open flames. Even in the chaos of battle, American soldiers heat water whenever they can. Behind tanks, inside craters, beneath the broken wings of aircraft. The mere sound of boiling water, the faint hiss rising from steel cups, becomes something unforgettable to the Germans who witness it. That sound is more than routine. It is ritual. A quiet affirmation that no matter how harsh the battlefield becomes, the United States brings its way of life with it. Soldiers crouching behind sandbags sip real coffee in the middle of shell fire. Some crack open small tins of powdered eggs before sunrise. Others share cigarettes as the desert wind sweeps dust across the horizon. For German troops, who consider cigarettes a rare treasure, the sight is astonishing. In many German units, a single pack is rationed across an entire week, and soldiers trade individual cigarettes like currency. When captured, Americans offer them freely, with no sense of value lost. The effect is emotionally disarming. By mid-1943, interrogation reports begin documenting repeated remarks from German prisoners. Many note that American soldiers seem unaffected by hunger. Others admit confusion at the sight of enemy troops eating warm meals in frontline trenches, while they themselves count calories to survive. One prisoner remarks, almost painfully, that American soldiers live like factory bosses, even under fire. A recurring question begins to form in the minds of German infantrymen. If the Americans fight with such ease, how vast must their homeland be? How powerful must their industry be? How endless their supplies? Something begins to shift, slowly, quietly. The ideological certainty they were raised on begins to soften. The symbolism grows stronger as the war widens. Italy collapses. The skies over Germany darken with bombers. And on June 6, 1944, when the Americans land on the beaches of Normandy, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. German soldiers defending the Atlantic Wall brace themselves for chaos. They expect the enemy to be weary, burdened, shaken by fire. Yet when they capture American packs scattered across the sand, they find more proof of abundance. Tins of condensed milk, chocolate fortified with vitamins, fresh packets of cigarettes sealed against seawater, and the familiar powdered eggs and coffee that have traveled across the ocean with the invasion force. In bunkers overlooking Omaha Beach, German officers read through confiscated U.S. ration guides and realize they are looking at a logistical miracle. The Americans have prepared not just to fight, but to feed, supply, and sustain an army of millions across an entire continent. Throughout Normandy's hedgerows, captured German diaries describe scenes that feel surreal. American soldiers brew coffee in foxholes during artillery lulls. Others cook eggs over small stoves fashioned from ration tins. Some pass cigarettes to wounded comrades while rainwater pools around their boots. These moments, minor to the Americans, strike the Germans as incomprehensible. One German sergeant writes in disbelief, "Their comfort follows them. It is as if their country stands beside each man." The symbolism of the cup returns again and again. The same dented, blackened cup, steaming in the midst of battle. It is more than a container. It is a message, a declaration that American soldiers do not march into war alone. They carry with them the warmth of home, the strength of plenty, and the morale lifted by small pleasures that should have vanished under fire, but somehow endure. By late 1944, as Germany retreats across France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, the emotional contrast becomes undeniable. German soldiers, running low on everything, see American convoys roll forward with supplies stacked to the sky. Cigarettes pour out of crates, coffee brews in officers' tents and enlisted dugouts alike. Eggs, fresh when possible, powdered when not, appear in breakfast kits from the Ardennes to Alsace. When the Battle of the Bulge erupts in December 1944, desperation seizes the German ranks. Some units go 48 hours without warm food. Ammunition and fuel run mysteriously short. Yet even here, under snow and artillery, American positions send out thick scents of boiling coffee, drifting through the listening posts at dawn. Prisoners taken during the battle recall that aroma as something painful, as if the enemy had stepped onto the battlefield with a piece of civilian life still intact. For the German soldier taught that strength is forged from hunger, the contrast becomes ideological. It forces a question that decades of propaganda had kept buried. Can abundance create strength? American soldiers carry food not as luxury, but as policy. Industrial power makes it possible. Democratic principles make it mandatory. A nation that believes its soldiers deserve dignity, warm meals, rest, comfort when possible, reveals an entirely different relationship between the individual and the state. German soldiers accustomed to scarcity feel this difference deeply. Some write that American armies fight with the confidence of men who do not worry about tomorrow. Others marvel at the efficiency of supply lines, the calmness of troops who never scramble for food or warmth. Even in prison camps, Germans receive better meals under American supervision than they did in their own units. They are given filtered coffee, eggs when available, and cigarettes issued as routine. The experience leaves many shaken. It becomes for them an unexpected window into the ideology they fought against. A recurring question echoes through POW interviews. How can a nation give so much to its soldiers? The answer is logistical, industrial, and deeply symbolic. Because the soldiers are citizens, not instruments. They fight not for scarcity, but for a system built on abundance. The war ends in 1945, and the world stands among ruins. German soldiers return home through shattered towns and empty cupboards. Many carry memories not of American tanks or aircraft, but of the small, ordinary comforts the Americans carried into battle without a second thought. For them, the symbol of the war is not just the thunder of artillery. It is the scent of coffee drifting over a battlefield. Years later, many former German soldiers speak of these moments with a kind of reflective melancholy. They recall how they first mocked American abundance, then envied it, then respected it. How something as simple as a boiling cup of coffee became a reminder of what their own system could not provide. Some describe it as the first moment they understood the true scale of American industrial might. Others say it was their first glimpse into the values of a democratic society that believes comfort does not weaken a soldier, it strengthens him. The mess cup, battered and blackened by flame, becomes the quiet symbol of that understanding. It represents the idea that freedom is sustained not just by weapons, but by the belief that even in war, a soldier deserves warmth, nourishment, and dignity. These small rituals, coffee shared under fire, eggs cooked beside frozen trenches, cigarettes passed from hand to hand, form the emotional thread that runs through the memories of an entire generation. As the years fade, that symbol remains. The Germans who once marched into battle, convinced that deprivation forged the strongest armies, found themselves confronted by an enemy who fought with comfort at his side, and whose strength came not from hunger, but from the vast support of a nation that refused to let its soldiers go without. In the end, the war revealed a truth larger than strategy or firepower. It showed that abundance can be a weapon, that morale rises from small comforts, that a steaming cup of coffee carried into battle, it can speak of a country's ideals as clearly as any flag. And long after the guns fell silent, the memory of that scent drifting over ruined fields, rich, warm, unmistakably American, continued to remind those who had once faced it of a deeper contrast. It whispered that democracy carries not just rights, but responsibilities. That power can be measured not only by what a nation demands from its soldiers, but by what it gives them. For many who witnessed it, the lingering aroma of American coffee became the quiet symbol of a larger truth. That a society built on freedom and abundance can project its strength all the way to the front line, one steaming cup at a time.